Hey guys, how are you? This is Pastor Cornell. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I'm starting a new mini-series and you guys get to be the first ones to listen to them. I'm entitling these the Food for Thought mini-series, and I'll try to put these out as my schedule permits, which is pretty tight, but I'm going to be faithful and try to do it. The intent here is to provide each one of us a snack-sized bite of biblical truth and then provide some practical application in the process. So today's topic is comfort, a drain on power. So let me start by telling you about my first car that I ever had, which was a Dodge K car, and it had about 94 horsepower. It was pretty comfortable, I gotta give it that. It had a stereo, which was nice, but the best feature it had was the air conditioning. Because in the summer, in the Washington, D.C. heat and humidity, as you guys can probably feel out there right now, it gets pretty tough out there. And I love my comfort, so I would make that trade of turning on that AC and not worrying about my acceleration at all. It'll get me to school sooner or later, but at least I won't be drenched in sweat. So that seemed like a pretty practical and good trade. Wouldn't you agree? But what happens if somebody is actually applying that principle to spiritual truths, right? So what happens if someone basically says, I'm willing to trade God's power in my life for the things that I want, which is my comfort? That would be obviously a bad choice. But how does this come about? Because nobody goes out, wakes up in the morning and says, how can I trade, God's power in my life for things that are passing? Well, we all end up somehow, getting sucked into these things. So I just want to call attention to it. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just trying to call attention to it so you can learn to manage these things. One of them, probably a top contender, would be watching TV. It could be 30 minutes. Next thing you know, it's a couple hours. Next thing you know, it's a 4 or 5 hour block. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what happened to my time? I didn't get to all the things I wanted to do. And usually you end up sacrificing your quiet time with Jesus to make up for the things you should have done when you actually had the time. Same thing if you're playing games, right? You could be playing video games, you could be playing whatever, or engaged in whatever is entertaining, or perhaps you just like to sleep in a lot and you're just burning daylight, literally. And all these things are convenient and they're comfortable and they're entertaining, but they will zap your ability. Just like that car with its air conditioner, when you're doing these things, it really puts a drain on the engine, because now you literally lost the one commodity that you have in life, which is time, and people have expectations of you, and you're unable to fulfill those things. So now you're beginning to sacrifice things that are not as visible, which would be, of course, spending time with God, spending time in worship. And so my point here is we want to make sure that we do not trade, Holy Spirit's power for the things that are comfortable or the things that are convenient in our lives. In Proverbs 6:10, it says that a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. Now, I must say that this proverb is applicable not only to the finances of your life here on earth, in case you decide you don't want to work anymore and you're surprised why you're surrounded by poverty and scarcity. It's the same thing in the spiritual realm, in this sense, where if you're not spending time with Jesus, if you're not going to the well to get living water, if you're not able to be nourished by Holy Spirit, our spiritual man begins to wither in the process. And so we have to be really, really careful about that, because it's so easy to hold on to convenience instead of saying, oh no, Lord, I want to see your power in my life. In John 10:10, it says, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. But Jesus says that he has come to give you and me life and give it to its abundance, so that you and I can live lives that are filled with joy, filled with power. And the things that we're thinking about for comfort, those things really are just little shadows in comparison to the kind of fulfillment you get from living with Holy Spirit and close unity. Now in Proverbs 14:23, the word tells us that all hard work brings a profit. But hard work sometimes is not convenient. Sometimes it's not comfortable. And so a lot of people are like, well, I'll just do the bare minimum or whatever. But we want to not, when it comes to the spiritual truths in our lives, we don't want to be doing the bare minimum. We want to be looking to do the kind of work required to help us to grow in the knowledge of and grow in the power of Jesus and the Holy Spirit. Because it says that mere talk leads only to poverty. So if we're only fantasizing about spending time with Jesus, we are clinging on to the words of sons and daughters, but we're not living out the truth of being sons and daughters, then we are void of the power of Holy Spirit in our lives, or at least not as fully manifest in power as it ought to be. So this is where I want to encourage you to kind of grow with it. So therefore in Ephesians 5:15 through 17, it tells us that to be very careful then how we live, not as unwise, but as wise. Why? Because we want to make the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Hey, so that's our message for today. The bottom line is, don't trade your power with Holy Spirit for the comforts of this life, but instead press into His presence and spend time with Him, and make sure that you don't crowd Him out from your life. So hey, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and we'll catch you guys next time. Be blessed. Bye-bye.